Hello and welcome to Unpreachy, a podcast of homilies and reflections from St. John Chrysostom Parish. Today, Father Ed Hallinan reflects on John chapter 20, verses 19 to 31, the Gospel reading for the second Sunday of Easter, April 7th, 2024.
I have to make a little confession to you. One of the sins that I have is the sin of pride. And for the entire time that I have been a priest, I have never used notes or I have never used a script. I spend a lot of hours preparing what I want to talk about. And I say to myself, if I expect them to listen and to remember what I talk about, I need to remember what I am there to talk about. But just a little bit recently, I sometimes have become a little forgetful. And I know I got 3 points I want to hit. Now, I know some of you are sitting there and saying it's more like 100. Okay, but anyway, I got like these 3 points I want to hit, and so I'm going from the first point, and I do that, and I'm going into the second point, and I do that, and then I'm about to go into the third point. I cannot bring it up. And so what I do is I keep on talking, and I'm hoping that God whispers the third point, but the only thing I can hear God saying is, Ed, would you let those poor people go? So anyway, what I'm doing, and it's hurting my pride, is I got like a little stickum. And every now and then, I'm not using it every week, but every now and then I'm going over things and I'm like, you know what, I better put it on that Post-it note. So that's why I got the Post-it note, and I'm going to have to confess pride the next time that I go to, confession. Last Sunday, we celebrated the resurrection of Jesus. Our churches were full, all our masses Easter Sunday, full, people dressed nicely. We celebrated the resurrection of Jesus. The second Sunday of Easter is when we celebrate the resurrection of the disciples. We celebrate our resurrection. The disciples and us are the same. And the disciples, following the crucifixion, abandoned Christ. When they heard of the resurrection of Christ, first, didn't believe it. Second, were locked up somewhere where they were hoping that the authorities wouldn't find them for fear they would be crucified too. And then they hear the woman have seen Christ and they don't believe them. And then they find out that Christ revealed himself to Mary Magdalene and to Peter, and they're feeling horrible about themselves. In fact, they may as well as be dead. That's where they are. How many times have we had that feeling where we just feel lousy and overwhelmed? Last Saturday, my niece came to see me, and we were finishing decorating the church, and she called and she said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, let me ask you, where are you?" And she said, "I'm in your parking lot." I said, "You're at St. John's?" Yeah. She goes, "My daughter has a soccer match a 5-minute away." I said, "What do you call it? Come on into the church." So I thought, I thought it was just a quick hello and whatever. And, for those of you that are parents, grandparents, I'm an uncle. I'm sitting with her in the front row, and I'm looking into her eyes. She's got three kids, married, three kids. I can see her eyes are all wet. And she's not here just to say hello. She's here for a reason. And she says, Uncle Ed, do you remember the guy that you anointed over at Bryn Mawr Hospital about 4 months ago? He had a stroke. He was my next door neighbor. He's got 5 sons, ages like 6 to 14. He's dying. You got your church looking nice about the resurrection, but my neighbor's dying. And my niece is a nurse, so she has gone over often to the house to clean them, to move them, to nurse them, to help his wife. And she goes, it's Easter, and I'm so heavy and sad. I said, Therese, that's real. That's real. And so when I talk about the resurrection of the disciples, I'm talking about the resurrection that we need to have when we have a next door neighbor, we have a spouse, we have a grandparent, we have a coworker who's real sick and suffering and maybe even dying, that we sometimes need to be resurrected. And that's what today is. Today's the second Sunday of Easter. It's Mercy Sunday. And the way that Jesus resurrects his disciples is the same way he resurrects us. And what he does is he comes into our life and he offers us his mercy. And he gives us his mercy in 3 different ways. The first way that he gives us that healing mercy is that when he sees us dead, when he sees us almost out of gas, and even if we have not been faithful to him, when he looks us in the eye, he says, peace be with you. And here we might be expecting him to say, I'm disappointed with you because of A, B, and C. Now, he looks at us, and for a second time, he says, peace be with you. So when you're listening to that gospel is meant directly to us. Directly to us. So he looks at all of us that are gathered here, and he wants to apply his mercy to us. And he says, peace be with you. So what I ask you to do is to take in that peace. Take in that mercy. And the second thing that Jesus does to communicate the mercy is that he breathes into us the gift of his Spirit. Jesus is so concerned about us and that we share in the life and mercy of God, that he breathes his mercy into us. And again, open yourself up and receive the breath of God. Imagine Jesus rises from the dead, and his first concern is us. His first concern is us and how we are. And then the third way that Jesus conveys his mercy to us is he says to us, look at my wounds. And he's got the wounds in the wrists. He's got the side. He's got the scourging. And he says, put your hands on me. Touch those wounds. The wounds are not the last word. My niece Teresa, as I was hugging her, I said to her, Teresa, I don't have anything right now to take this thing away from you. He died like about 2 hours later. I got a text from her. He died. I said, Teresa, I don't have anything for you like right now. But I said later, Christ is going to have something for your neighbor. Christ is going to have something for his wife. Christ is going to have something for his 5 sons. And Christ is going to have something for you. And so today is the day that we receive Jesus' mercy through peace, through God's breath, and through God's wounds. And he says, we both have wounds, don't we? But these wounds are not the last word. God raising us up. God has the last word. And I didn't even need my notes.
Unpreachy is a production of St. John Chrysostom Parish in Wallingford, Pennsylvania. Visit us at sjcparish.org. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. This podcast was produced by Brendan Lorden with music by Skytoes on Upbeat. Thanks for listening. Be well.